Hello guys, Furball the Hammy, your friendly neighborhood hamster, is back again for another Hypixel Skyblock video. And after playing Flvff 7 for over 1400 times and Flvff 4, 5 and 6 over 1000 times combined, I am here to talk about the things I wish dungeons could have done better and things they should work on for the future. Number 1. Class identity and balance. If you're going to make 5 classes but only 2 out of the 5 are used, and having 4 repeated classes is a good strategy, and trying to play any other class requires you to use one specific weapon to get the best speeds, whose weapon doesn't even fit in your class, talking about the Hyperion. So why make 5 classes? This goes beyond balancing, because not only is mage horribly balanced that even archers need to use a mage weapon, this is also horrible for class identity. Some of you guys may be asking, what the hell is class identity? Class identity is something unique to your class, such as unique weapons that only one class can use and unique abilities. Most importantly, if every class has the same good weapons as each other, you can play tank, healer or berserker and it will feel like you're playing the same exact class, except that you have a different ability that doesn't even make that large of an impact because you can only use it once every 300 seconds. If you want a good example of class identity, look at Windcraft. I am not idolizing Windcraft here because it has its own fair share of problems, but it excels in class identity and makes every single class useful, viable and somewhat balanced, and all of the classes actually feel drastically different from one another. For example, Mage and Shaman are classes in Windcraft and they sound rather similar, right? They have a healing ability that can heal allies and do area of damage effects, like Mage's Meteor ability and Shaman's Totemic abilities which deal area damage. Shaman has healing, but also damage buffs to buff your allies and yourself. Shaman also has a more devastating area of damage effects and has abilities which can manipulate the position of enemies with Uproot and Aura. But doesn't this make Shaman better than Mage? Well, yes, except that Shaman has a defense penalty of 50% compared to Mage, and Mage doesn't just have higher defenses but also has healing abilities too and are slightly different. They are single target and stronger, whereas Shaman is area healing but a bit weaker. Meanwhile, Mage doesn't have devastating area effects or manipulation effects to move enemies around like Shaman, but it has a much better mobility skill and also has the ability to slow down enemies, with Ice Snake being the more stable and vanilla support class that you are used to, but also having Meteor for a devastating attack so you can still do huge damage as a support, making even similar classes entirely unique and different in gameplay. You can play both classes and level them all the way up to level 100 and they will feel different in the entire process. Meanwhile, look at healers and tanks in Skyblock. Your offensive options and weapons are either Livid Dagger and Flower of Truth, or a Hyperion or Spirit Scepter, which are basically Berserker and Mage weapons. They have unique weapons like the Fell Sword and the Earth Shard, but aren't even worth using compared to others, so why bother? And this is what I mean by class identity. Every class has to feel unique and to play an important role. In Skyblock, the classes don't play that important of a role. You can play any class with a Hyperion and it still be good. So yeah, exactly. I don't see the point of having classes if you aren't going to make the classes unique and have their own weapons and have their own benefits to use. The only difference at this point classes have is just higher base defense, ability to drop a healing circle, which is really not even that important, especially in today's meta where everyone is tanky enough to not require a healer. Number 2. Boss fights. The boss fights in the game are actually decent, but there are design issues. Firstly, can we talk about flaw 6? What is the point of the terracotta phase? Yes, it's nice that you make healers more useful in this phase, but it's badly designed. Why do you want to sit around and do nothing while getting bashed and knocked all over the place for a whole 2 minutes and there's nothing for you to do to speed it up? This is the largest design problem I have seen. Making you survive for 2 minutes is fine, but at least make it more interactive and an option to speed it up, such as killing all terracottas to shorten the duration or something, especially when you have to do the same dungeon 500 times to get the most profitable drop in the collection. At least make it so that there is a way to speed it up if you can survive the 2 minutes. Anything, just make sure that you kill all the terracottas, you shorten the time by 1 minute or something. Anything, but making you sit around for 2 minutes just watching the terracottas bash you up, it's not interesting gameplay. Secondly, flaw 5. Flaw 5 is a design flaw because it looks cool in theory, where you have to find the real Livid among the illusions and kill the real Livid, but in reality it's just a joke because players can just stay in a corner and attack all the clones. Since they will all crowd together, any mage weapon can kill everything at once. It's cool to have illusion based bosses and it's really good and a fun boss fight in theory, but the fact that people can just disregard the entire boss design and just blow them all to pieces is such a wasteful design and opportunity. A simple solution would have been to put barrier blocks at elevated places and force players to fight in the actual arena created for the fight and not some random corner in the room. But anyways, it's too late to change now since Hyperion will just blow through the illusions due to sheer area damage. But the boss fights as a whole are actually pretty decent and are okay, but I just have a biased hate for Flaw 6's boss fight. The rest of the boss fights are actually interesting and are pretty unique. Number 3. Requirements. This also partially overlaps as to why Dungeons was a failure in the eyes of the developers. There is some insider information in Skyblock Nerds, but after 1 month of Flaw 6's release, some people were told that there were only 20% of players who were at Cata 20 or higher. Part of this reason is also because of the poor design of dungeons, which requires a team, where most players in Skyblock are individual or solo players, unlike Windcraft where dungeons were made to be easily soloable and the maps aren't that big, where soloing isn't a painful thing to do unlike Skyblock. But another reason is also because of the requirements of gear. The gear merely requires floor completion, and this is bad for so many reasons. Sure, you are allowing your player base to just not do dungeons, just buy carries and move on with their lives and get the best gear. But on the other hand, you are wondering why no one is playing dungeons enough? Because you don't make dungeons important to play it multiple times. Did anyone complain when Necron, Storm, Goldor and Maxor Armor had a Cata 34 requirement to use the full set when it first came out? No one complained because it was fair and justified. You want the best armor in the game? Well, you jolly well work your ass off to grind for it, and that's fair. At this point in time, it's too late to render these changes, and changing Cata 34 requirements will now cause people to take out their pitchforks and riot. Anyways, I do hope that anyone on the dev team sees this and makes the changes for future dungeons and master modes, because it's too late to change it now. And lastly, number 5, bugs. Bug chunks that forces you to restart a run, double death glitches, bing bong, your inventory is gone, and other smaller bugs. They still exist and plague the game and are unfixed. Anyways, I think it's too late to change the mechanics of dungeons by now because I'm pretty sure people will just get mad. Just like how you change the combat requirements for Aspect of the Dragons and Dragon Armor. There was a bit of controversy back then, but back then, when you change the requirements weren't that high, so it's still fine, but Cata 34 is relatively high for the average player. So if you're gonna make those requirements, people might actually get a lot more mad, and I think at this point, we are past the point of no return. Don't change the requirements now, but I do hope to see these changes in the future dungeon, or maybe in master mode. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and this is Furfsky Reborn, your dungeon maniac, signing out. I'm pretty tired of dungeons and the continuous issues plaguing it, and with that, I'll see you guys in the next video.